Hey guys, welcome back to Daniel's Custom Guitars. Second video of our build tutorial here. Today, wanted to focus on the neck. The neck does come from Stuart McDonald, slightly set up, but the frets need some work. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the fretboard, we're going to make sure we've leveled the frets, we'll go through a crowning of the frets, kind of shaping them, and then final polish just to kind of give it a nice finish to it. So this process, something you could definitely do in under an hour. Several different kind of tips and tricks that my dad's going to kind of show on how he does it. You know, he's built many guitars, but he's made even more necks. He used to collaborate with another builder called Palin, and they sold very high-end jazz archtop, full acoustic archtop guitars. So something he's definitely an expert on. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, enjoy. Thanks for watching. And then how much force do you decide to put onto it?
Well, I kind of developed a feel, kind of using my string tension jig up there. One day I kind of, on a guitar, I noticed that and this thread might be a little bit different than the thread that's on there, but I noticed that the way to do it is kind of figure out where it starts to get snug. There's a point right there where the slack is taken up, and it right about there, it feels like it starts to engage. So if you take it and go a half of a turn and then just a touch more, that's actually the amount of tension that the strings will put on the neck.
Okay.
I just kind of determined a rule of thumb. And you can kind of tell that. Get your straight edge on here and kind of see what's going on. So right there, see, I've got a little bit of rocking. The neck is crowned just a little bit. So let's see what happens when right about there is where it starts to snug up. So I'll go a half a turn, and now it's sitting flat on there.
Gotcha.
I'll get in there in a minute and get my optivisor on and really kind of get a little bit more accurate on that. But that right there will probably be about the spot where we want to level it, because it's
so surprising. Like they almost leveled it like that.
I had set this up before, and I set the truss rod. The truss rod wasn't doing anything, so I snugged up the truss rod a little bit to where it gave me a level plane when this was engaged a half of turn. So I'd kind of already preset it.
Okay.
But you can kind of see that this is what you want to, and when you're getting ready to level the frets, is you want it as dead flat as you can get it, because if you're leaving it a little bit crowned this way or a little bit crowned that way, then you're going to be removing more fret material than you really need to. Right,
because then you go and you put the strings back on it, and now it's not actually flat anymore.
And this is kind of the way you do it without this gauge. You would set your neck in whatever jig you have to hold it, and you want to tighten up the truss rod a little bit to make it flat. Even though in that case you'd be tightening it up less because you don't have this thing that's resisting some of the pull.
Right.
So then you use some kind of a very flat device with sandpaper on it, and this is what I've been using forever because it was really cheap, and Stuart McDonald didn't exist back in the day. We got 220 grit on one side and 320 on another. It's just an aluminum carpenter's level that has a flat profile on the edge. A lot of them have like some ridges or something like that, but this is nice and flat, and it's just dead flat. I mean, I've checked it with my machinist ruler, and it is just, you can see,
yeah,
it is just dead flat. And Stuart McDonald sells an aluminum sanding beam that's just almost the same thing as this for about $150. And theirs has been actually machined level by a machinist, but
Is that cast fly level?
this is
aluminum?
extruded aluminum.
Extruded.
But when it comes out of the extrusion device, yeah, they're pretty darn accurate. I'm going to probably remove this container. This, I don't like the sandpaper. It's kind of coming off a little bit, and you don't want any gaps like that.
You got a double-sided tape on there, or?
No, this is actually sandpaper that has a sticky back to it that I buy from good old Stuart McDonald.
Of course.
Or if you see a level, a 2-foot level that's got a flat surface like that, pick it up. Most of the time they're kind of corrugated and stuff. You just can't use them like that. But there are some out there. I've got another one here that's a longer one and it's flat. I've never used it for the fret plane, but this one would also work.
Oh, that's nice.
But we're also going to kind of do a little bit of a compound radius on the fretboard.
Okay.
And it really, there's a lot of discussion that could be talked about, but I don't want to get too deep into it. What I do, when you're right in the center of the fretboard, the strings are going to be, those two middle strings are pretty well laying right down the center. So those strokes should be centered. And you kind of look, when you're looking down here, you'll see an equal amount of fretboard there and here. And of course, the fretboard tapers, so you can see how it's narrower here and wider there.
Right.
When we're standing on the edge, we don't want to be parallel to that first. We actually want to be flared out a little bit.
Okay.
And on this side, flared out this way. So, and you don't want to sand in one spot. You want to be moving back and forth the whole time. So, as I'm moving, I'll be kind of going a little bit like that and a little bit like that.
Gotcha.
Moving this end all the ways across and moving this end less.
Okay.
And so, you don't need to sand much. You just want to hit the tops of the fretboard. So I'll do just a little bit here and then let you do a little bit. And just kind of watch as I'm moving. I don't stay in one place. I'm sweeping back and forth. Of course, moving this way. And you don't need to move this way far, just a little bit. So just kind of watch. And it's kind of good to stand over so you can kind of see what you're doing. Okay, that's enough to stop and kind of look at what we're doing here. So kind of look real closely and see where it's touching and where it hasn't touched.
So it's getting there and not. Well, that's on the side a little bit.
You can see it's definitely hitting there. See how it's created these flat spots there?
Right.
And it hasn't really hit here yet. It's hit in the center a little bit, but not here. Let's look down here. It's not hitting much, kind of equally all the ways across. Let's see down here. It's hit there a little bit, pretty much almost all the ways across. So we're actually, for the small amount of sanding I did, I think we're good as far as the level goes because we're kind of hitting a little bit of everything. And one thing I had noticed too, just something to be aware of, it's not bad. There's a little bit of twist to the neck, just a slight bit. And this side right here is a little bit high, just a touch. And you can kind of see right here that it's definitely hitting these frets more so than almost any other place. Right there, it took.
Yeah. I can
created
see
a
that.
pretty good flat spot.
Right.
And you don't want to take off any more than you have to. The object here is the least amount of fret material removal, but yet still establishing a good flat spot on hopefully almost every fret. So I'll let you do a little bit.
Okay.
And probably what I did there, I went back and forth about 4 or 5 times and stopped. You'll need to probably do that maybe about 8 or 10 times, and that will be about probably it.
8 or 10 times total, or 8 times of 4?
No, 8,
Okay.
8 total times.
Yep.
So do about 4, stop and look at it good, and then do about another 4, and then we're probably going to switch over to the fine side and finish up there.
Okay.
So this is very different than normal sanding. It's just it's kind of very in fact, if you can hit all of the tops of the frets in 3 or 4 strokes,
Be done with it.
Consider it a perfect fret job and stop right there.
Okay. So you said at the end here, you know, some people like not having it.
A lot of people will actually take some masking tape, about 4 layers of masking tape right here, and build it up over this fret, and then go in and sand like that to make that drop off,
Gotcha.
fall away. And so I've been trying to do that, especially on acoustics. On electrics, you know, there's kind of a debate. Some people like fall away, some people don't. Some luthiers intentionally create it on electrics, some don't.
You can see we're getting most of the fret from low to high at least.
You know, ideally you want to see a little bit taken off the top of each fret, but you can kind of tell that, oh, that like this first fret, we touched it up there. It's got a little bit of contact right across there. It's not enough to create a flat area, but you can see some very fine scratches.
Right.
So we know that fret is not super low.
Right.
We know it's pretty close to being in line with everything else. But go ahead and hit it with the 320.
Okay.
And these level spots will show up a little bit better even. Now we want to get rid of those flat spots. They're not very bad, but there's a few places where they're like that fret there is kind of got that flat spot all the way across. And what we want to do is make those flat spots show up.
Okay.
The best way is to use a different colored Sharpie. One there to just get it on that flat spot. Because we're going to remove most of it, but we want to leave a tiny bit of that flat spot right in the middle of the fret, because that's our level. We don't want to get rid of that, because then we'll lose our I just found that using the black the first time around and then the red for this step works really well for seeing it. Back in the old days, I'd never used markers like this, and you just had to spend more time kind of looking at stuff to really be able to see it. Okay, here's my Super Duty StewMac Diamond offset fret file. It's got a fine side and a coarse side. I've had this for about 20 years and it's still working great.
Some people use like the emery boards, right? Like the finger.
Some people use files. Some people use.
I saw some guy that was using
things,
yeah,
sanding sticks. But you have to go in and crown it. You know, you're doing it freehand.
Right.
Whereas this tool does it for you.
So it's actually got a little.
It's got diamonds, crushed diamonds, in this concave groove, and they make them. They make one that's sized for a ukulele size one, and they have one that's wider for super large frets. This is just kind of the normal size, which works well for just standard fret size. And I don't even use the coarse side unless I really have to remove a lot of material. On these, we won't need it, so we'll just go in. And we want to remove as little material as possible, and the ideal is to have a fine red line that's left. And actually, I removed the red line there. There's a little bit left right there. So you can see, I actually did too much filing there. I took about 3 strokes. And
wow.
It went too far. So
okay.
Probably on this one, let me take like 1 or 2 strokes to see what it does. It did. There's just a little bit of red left there. That's fine. We can leave it. There's a fine red line there. That's good enough.
Okay.
That's how much you need to do.
Gotcha.
320 grit. 320 grit is also acceptable.
Okay.
But once you come on this side, I'll kind of show you. What I do, I don't know if you have a fingernail. You probably don't. So
I don't.
I'll set you up with a tool. But what I do, I keep that fingernail about that long. I take this 400 grit sandpaper and I wrap my fingernail around it like that. And we're kind of doing a quarter, well, we're doing one side of the fret at a time. We're going to do that side of this fret. And we just kind of want to, see how I kind of go around that edge a little bit there? To kind of catch that edge we just filed on,
right.
Sand it off a little bit. And then we're kind of sanding the edge and the top of the fret. And we'll have to come back and do the other side. I just did this one half side.
Yep. Okay.
But you don't have fingernails, so what I'm going to do, I think, is have you use this little tool. It's rubber squeegee, and it's got these grooves on the side, so it'll fit over the fret. So you can kind of do the same thing. And this will kind of do both sides of the fret at the same time.
Okay, so just kind of roll it as I'm doing it?
Yeah, and just kind of... I've never used this much, so you'll have to kind of figure your own technique. But see how I kind of rock it a little bit to get down to the corners, kind of the inside corners down there.
Okay.
Yeah, that works pretty good. It does both sides of the fret. And maybe kind of do one or two kind of over the edge like that to get the ends there a little bit.
Okay.
So we want to try to get get rid of that flat spot and any. I see a little bit of file work there. I need to hit a little bit more.
Cool.
About like that.
Okay.
Now we'll come. I still see a little bit of scratch. I see a scratch right there and a little bit right there. So we can kind of come back afterwards and do a little bit like that to get anything that's flat on top and kind of hit all of them a little bit if you need to. But at this point, what we're kind of doing is we're kind of making the fret pretty by getting rid of all the scratches and everything.
And then we'll come back and buff it.
Yeah.
Using
Doing something else with
this thing?
No, the one over there. I got a big cotton wheel on the buffer that I've always done my frets on.
Oh, I see. Yep.
And over the years, it kind of started not working as well. I don't know whether it was the wheel was wearing out or whether my compound was kind of getting. I did the Dremel in it, and the Dremel worked really well.
Is that just like a normal wax or what type of?
No, this is a compound. It's got abrasive material. You can see, I've had this for 40 years.
Oh crap!
I don't know how long. It's probably about this long to start with. So
it's like you and your 5 gallons of soy sauce.
Really. So when you put the compound on here, slow this down all the ways to 1, and just about that much.
Okay.
And then, sure, watch it on the other side. And this is kind of another thing where you have to kind of go and do each side of the fret separately.
Okay.
And get that down there a little bit. I think this is the right thing. Let me get a paper towel here. See, it polishes it up pretty nice.
Yeah.
But you'll want to hit this other side a little bit.
Okay.
So,
cool.
That's about all you need.
Just a good old Dremel.
You'll probably need to put compound on there once every 2 or 3 frets.
Cool.
So here's a look at the finished neck, all polished. We'll be ready to glue that in once we've got the body sanded and polished. So stay tuned. We'll have more coming up. Thanks, guys.